All right. Hey, everybody. It's the 14th of November, 2023. It's a Tuesday, 1800 UTC. This is when we get together each week for Gimbalabs Playground. We've been doing this for about not quite 3 years, but we're in season 3 of Gimbalabs Playground now. I shared a Miro link in the chat. I'll share screen for just a minute so we have the visual. This right here is the Gimbalabs Playground Miro Board. This is the one for season 3. It's also linked from gimbalabs.com/playground, where there's a link to this meeting and some notes. Here on this board, there are also links to prior Gimbalabs Playground boards. We've been through a few iterations of how this meeting works, but one thing that's been consistent for a while now is anybody can sign up to present on anything they'd like. So you can see we started season 3 back at the start of September, and you can see the different folks who have presented over the last couple of months. You can also see there's a bunch of empty spaces from now through May of 2024. And the way Playground works is anybody is invited to take an open presentation slot and present on whatever they'd like. Kenrick gave the great feedback last week, and hey, Kenrick, by the way, that maybe presentation isn't the right word, and I agree with that. Sometimes people do want to present something directly. Often what happens at Playground is there might be a short product pitch or a short demo, and then a conversation. And that's what I hope to do today. The Andamio team has taken a couple of slots. You can see these in yellow. Mesh PBL has done the same. And one of the things we're experimenting with is, we wrote sponsored sessions right here. But the idea is, how can we use the community spaces we already have to do some of the things we need to do anyway? And so both the Mesh and the Andamio teams are using Gimbalabs Playground as a place to do some of the reporting that's required for Catalyst funding. And we're hoping that this video and this conversation that we have today can be a worthwhile artifact instead of taking that completely as a separate task to do our Catalyst reporting. Let's just be here with our friends and pushing this work forward. So you see some of these are yellow, but any row that's white is an open session. And the way the sign-up process works is like this. You just come to this Miro board, you write your name, what you want to present about, and contact info, and that's all. You're officially scheduled, and we expect you to show up. I'm not actually sure why we even collect contact info. We use these in tweets, but we're not going to reach out to you. We'll just hope that you remembered. And hopefully this is a small example of how distributed systems can work. Any questions about Playground before we get to today's agenda? All right. Anybody else have any announcements you'd like to share with the community before we jump into the Andamio presentation? Okay, let's give this a try. So I'm happy to report, filmed before a live studio audience. Yeah, we should probably start throwing that line in. I'm happy to report that Andamio is live. It's early. This is an early alpha, but if you go to the website andamio.io, you will see an early version of our application. And I'll share that on my screen now. There we go. So what I'd like to do today is 2 things. One, just give you a little tour of what we've got here and give you a chance to try it for yourself. If you're familiar with Plutus PBL, what we've been providing from Gimbalabs for a couple of years now, the first lesson might look familiar. But then I really want to lean on our community here to think about messaging. There's a whole bunch of language on this landing page that's on my screen right now. And I'm pretty sure we don't have it right yet. So I'd love to workshop some of the messages with everybody here and see what resonates with you, and see if there's a different way that we could say some of these things better. But for the quick tour, here we are. We're on the home screen. You can scroll up and down, obviously, if you want to. And there's a couple links at the top. Contributor platform is a work in progress. And we've got some demo data here. And also you can see that the UI genies haven't done their work yet on this page, okay? So we've been using this for testing, and I'm kind of excited about this. You know, this is kind of the live living work of that's currently ongoing. And you can see that is very much the case right here. Course management, same story. Was playing with the background image. It doesn't look good yet. But some of the essential links are here. Where most of the work has happened is in the course route. And so this is where we can start. There's a little bit of messaging here. We can revisit this in just a moment. And just like Plutus PBL, the course here is organized into modules, and each module has a set of learning targets. These are the I can statements that some people here are familiar with, that ideally will clearly describe what learners will know and be able to do after completing a module. I presented on learning targets earlier in the fall, and this is a concept that we're going to continue revisiting in the weeks and months to come. But you can see the expectations for this course. Some of these lists of learning targets are not ready yet, and they haven't been published on chain. Actually, you'll see that only the first module has this little green line right here. Module is deployed on chain. The rest of them just say that it's coming soon. So what does that mean? Well, any course is written by an individual or an organization, usually a team, and it's a governance decision of that team to decide what these learning targets should be. So you could see in module 101, why does this module exist? Well, so that learners can figure out how to mint a learner token, they can commit to an assignment, and can then see an on-chain record of a completed assignment. If we achieve these things in this module, then the module is successful. If we don't, the module is not good enough yet, and the content can be refined. Lesson content should change all the time. It's going to be refined frequently, because if we're really trying to teach something so that people learn, we should be responsive to how well people are learning those things. But unlike lessons, these learning targets shouldn't change often. And that's why we put them on chain. So under the hood, this is a feature that we haven't deployed yet, but you can see there's a little placeholder for it. Don't trust, verify, okay? Under the hood of the application, this module title and these 3 learning targets are hashed. And then that hash is taken and it's placed on chain with a token that represents this module. And if we, as the creators of this course, change these learning targets, the hash of this module is going to change. And our on-chain reference to it will no longer be valid, because now what we said we were going to teach and what we're actually trying to teach now, there's been a divergence between those two things. So I wanted to start here. If you're taking the course, it doesn't say all of this right on the page. Okay, you're getting already a little bit of a technical deep dive just to hear that part. Okay, learners will be able to jump right in. But I wanted to start with that, this concept of an on-chain course module. And let me just pause right there. This is going to be the topic of lessons later in the course. But how much sense is this making so far, and what questions does it raise for you? Good. So in the chat, Tavo says, why learning targets are being verified and why is content not verifiable? And this is a critical question. And we might find that it's important to verify content as well. Currently, we're only verifying learning targets. And here's why. Let's take a non-technical example first. All right, let's say that the learning target is I can ride a bicycle, right? That's the learning target, right? And I'm going to go out into the world and I'm going to say to everybody, hey, I'm really good at teaching people how to ride bicycles. And you might say, well, yeah, okay, you can say that, but are you? Right? Now, for me to be successful at being the world's greatest teacher of bicycle riding, what has to happen is learners need to learn how to do that thing. If I'm good at my job, learners are going to know how to do that, right? Somebody who couldn't ride a bike before is now going to be able to. Does it matter how I taught them? Maybe some of my clients who come to me to learn how to ride a bike, they're brave, they're thrill seekers. And as a matter of fact, the way I choose to teach them how to ride bikes is I put them at the top of a steep hill and I say, hey, go for it, see what happens. And they're like, oh, okay. And they're not afraid of crashing, they're just going to try, right? But other people are fearful and they wouldn't follow that approach, right? And so they might need a little, maybe I got to put elbow pads and knee pads on them. So my lesson involves all of that safety first, and then finally we get on the bike and we try to take it for a spin. That's the content. And it might change from learner to learner. It might change from year to year as better tools get built. But the reason we're trying to teach these things, that has stayed consistent. Okay. Now, in the current implementation, there is a one-to-one mapping of learning targets to lessons, lesson 101.1, 2, and 3. But it doesn't have to be like this. You might take several lessons to teach the same learning target. You might combine several learning targets into one lesson, and you have that flexibility. And because when you're teaching, again, right, the goal is not to be the teacher who's just talking potentially into the void. I have no idea if I'm teaching well right now. I can only see Roberto and Tavo's faces, right? The goal is not to just be talking. The goal is for people to learn things. And if that's really the goal, lesson content is going to change. It has to. Okay, if you're responsive, you're going to change the content when you see that, oh, I could have done this part a little bit better. But again, why am I teaching? Because I got to figure out how to get people to be able to do these three things. How do you feel about that? Or how does anybody else feel? I know that Tavo is only on chat today. Verification for the learning targets. Yeah. It's a great question, and this is a hypothesis that we're playing with right now as we start to bring Andamio into the world, right? We might find that people don't care if there's validation of these learning targets. But the way these work in an educational setting, these are the contract, right? And I'm using that word contract on purpose. We have smart contracts on chain. It's debatable whether that's the right word to talk about them, right? But they represent a statement of intent that ideally is as strong as a promise, as strong as something on chain. Why are you guys building that course? Oh, because our goal is to teach these things. And if we try to change the purpose of our course or the goals in the first place, that should have to create a different reference, right? This is our promise. You can see it. You can see when this was minted, and you can see our track record of teaching these things, right? Since that token was minted on chain. Okay. And we really want, that's what we're trying to achieve, right? We want people to take very seriously those statements of intention for what people are going to learn by investing their time. And in some cases, maybe they're paying for a course, right? And their money in a course. Here's the thing I paid for. Here's the thing I spent time on. As a learner, you guys told me that I was going to be able to learn these things. I think if I changed these learning targets right in the middle of the course, that's just like a rug pull, right? And so we treat it that way. Anybody else thinking about this or seeing it in different ways?
I'm sorry if I'm bringing up something that was already covered when I had to be out of the room for a moment, but continuity is a question in the sense of sometimes we discover that we need to know more things. And so, like if you aren't rug pulling on SLTs that you already promised, but you're adding another one, um, enabling continuity of the new thing to mean just as much as the old thing and more could be something to consider addressing in a future version.
I love that. Right. So having the ability to say, okay, this module was incomplete, and we don't want to change these three learning targets that were here, but we do want to add another one because we recognize that it's necessary. Yeah. That gets into some longer term thinking as well about how we're thinking about prerequisites, and also the ability to share modules like these across courses. And we'll see an example of this in just a moment. I actually just added a link to the first lesson that takes you back to Plutus PBL, just to show that as different organizations start building courses like these, they might find, well, yeah, my module is incomplete, but actually this other team over there, they already taught people how to fill in the gap in my module in a better way than I could right now. And so now we can start to share those resources across the network. Robo, hey, and I see your question in the chat, but yeah, jump in.
Yeah, I just had a small question. I'm not really familiar with the whole process, so I'm very sorry if I ask something that is not relevant or anything. But yeah, the question is, how are these modules and the lessons, how are they represented on chain?
Great question. So what is represented on chain is the module itself, and it's represented by a token that's accompanied by the hash of this module ID, title, and these learning targets. And then that token is referenced every time that a learner is approved for completing that module. And it's almost an easier idea to explain once we can look at that on-chain data a little bit. So that's what we're going to do today. But this part, it's the learning goal that's represented on-chain. And then the lessons themselves at the moment are not yet represented on-chain, but we want to learn and figure out, should they be, right? What maybe a lesson needs to be represented on-chain. And so that's in these early days, that's a place we're going. To your question in the chat about using Andamio, we're working on that release right now. We recognize that some people are ready just to get up and running with it, and others will need more support. So we're building a business around supporting people to use this open source tool, but we're also making the code base available. Okay, so for example, this is some unrefined documentation for AndamioJS. You can find this on NPM now. It's at AndamioJS/core, and this can be added to any Node.js project. It's a set of all of the off-chain code necessary for working with Andamio. And we're going to publish this in a better way soon, but you can see that this is just the type doc documentation if you are a dev, if you're familiar with this. But we're working on making this very accessible so anybody can build a different UI, right? This is just one UI for an application. We envision that there will be many different UIs that achieve the same thing. They all work with the on-chain code in the same way, but they give learners a different experience, okay? And so if you want to start playing with that, you can now, but it's not reliable yet. We're getting to the point where this is available, and we're also getting to the point where we have a starter template that gives you the UI that I'm showing you right here, and that should be ready for an early release within the next week or two. Harsha.
So when they create a module token and there are like internal learning targets in it, would some of the learning targets be without a middleman and some have a middleman in between those to be approved?
Great question. Okay. So there is not yet like an automated approval process built yet. Okay, when this is something we're all going to be talking about for the foreseeable future, right? What does it mean to automate the approval of that learning process? And long story short, for the moment, there's a lot of reasons why that's hard. Sure, from a technical perspective, but also from a trust perspective. So we're doing a lot of work to play with that potential. And so for now, yes, there is a middleman who approves that any given assignment is complete. So in the course management platform that we're looking at right now, there's 3 roles. There's a course creator who decides when we can mint those module tokens and put these modules on chain. That's represented by a policy ID. This means that there can be one or more, any number of course creators, but also that policy ID can reference a multi-sig wallet or another contract. And so one of the things we're putting the finishing touches on right now is the ability for a group of people to express their approval of a module to go on chain through like a governance contract. And then when the threshold is hit, for that contract to actually be the creator that's signing off and saying that we can publish this module. Same is true for course facilitators. These are the people who decide whether or not an assignment is complete. Okay. And on a personal level, I'm really interested in this part. I'm most interested in the parts of blockchain that can't be automated, right? That really force people to say, yeah, I verify that, I validate that, or I'll sign off on that. Because no matter what I could get a robot to do, Tavo's signature is more interesting to me, right? Tavo signed off on that. It must be at least real to a certain extent, right? And if you see that there is this kind of, we've been thinking about it as the human oracle layer, right? Groups of people working in community, building trust and collaborating are themselves a sort of oracle. And this is not a new idea, right? There's other groups who have been doing this work, rebooting the web of trust, for example, right? Have been looking at ways to say, how do groups of people come together to give a validation that matters? And so for now, we're really focused on that part. But even for what you'll do, like if maybe some people have played with it already, and I'll show you how in just a second, but module 101, approval could be automated, right? If there's an on-chain event that needs to happen, if an on-chain event happens, you can just have an application wallet watching for that and then signing off with approval the moment it sees the necessary evidence. Any other questions or thoughts before we keep going? All right, so I have a wallet connected here. I'm on pre-prod, which is the shorthand way to say pre-production testnet. So I'm in a NAMI wallet in this example, settings, network, and you can choose from this drop-down menu whether you want to be on mainnet, pre-prod, preview, or the old testnet. So I'm on pre-prod right now. This is where you need to be to interact with this application. Oh, and I can see that this drop-down menu is not showing up in the video, but I'm clicking on this drop-down menu and you can see there's other options in the menu if you try it yourself. With Eternal Wallet, it's similar. In the bottom right-hand corner of the Eternal page, there's a little icon that says mainnet, and you can click on that to change to a different network. In this case, we're using pre-prod. Okay, we don't want it to be expensive for people. We don't want anybody spending real ADA to play with this alpha version right here. So I'm on the pre-prod network, and I've already minted a contributor token to this wallet. And that's why I can see this commit to assignment button right here. Okay, so those two things have to be true. One, my wallet has to be connected, and two, it has to have a learner token in it. So let's take a quick look at how to get to that point. Well, that's the first learning target, isn't it? I can mint an Andamio learner token. Let's see if this first lesson is actually any good. Let's see if it gets people there. So I can drop into the module by pressing learn or with the side navigation. I can see these are the 3 learning targets I'm going to work on. These are the lessons I'm going to work on. And a little bit of copy here. And this is some of what I just showed you, right? In order to use this, you'll need to know how to connect to pre-prod testnet and get test data from the faucet. And this is an example, going back to Randall's question from earlier, okay? This is an example of how we could try to include these learning targets in this module. I can connect a wallet to pre-prod testnet. I can get test data from the faucet. But the thing is, those lessons have already been written. So this link right here takes you over to Plutus PBL, where there's a learning target in a different course that shows you how to do that thing. And in the same way, you can see it right here. The next lesson is get test data from the faucet, but there's also a link right here. So this is just one tiny example of how different PBL courses can reference each other if one of them is already teaching something that the other one needs. Now, there's probably better ways to teach this. I don't know if this is the best way, right? But there is some documentation here. We can use it, or somebody might be inspired to make just the world's most perfect video that works for 100% of the people and shows them how to connect a Cardano wallet to pre-prod, right? This is, as we start to think, not just today, but in the months to come, about the value of the Andamio network, this is part of it. If somebody has already created a lesson about the thing that people need to know, technical or non-technical, right? Blockchain or not, we want people to be able to discover those effective lessons and be able to reuse them, so they're not spending all their time teaching some of the stuff that everybody's going to need, right? Anybody who ever uses pre-prod is going to need to teach people who've never done it how to switch their wallet over to that network, right? Wouldn't it be nice if there were 3 or 4 lessons you could choose from where people have taught that learning target in different ways? And now I don't have to rewrite that lesson every time. I can just go grab the work that somebody else has done. How much sense is that part making? And does that give anybody any new ideas? Yeah, Roho, what do you think?
I think it's a very interesting idea. Actually, even having something like a public library with all the created modules, and then like just by searching keywords, you can just like find this couple of modules that are all about the same topic, and then choose one of them. That's it's a really cool idea, to be honest.
Thanks, man. Me too. You know, that idea, you might be able in the future to build a course where you're not actually writing any of the new content. You're just grabbing, 5 different modules from 5 different creators, but sticking them together in a unique way that gives learners a high impact. So this is a module overview, right? We reiterate the learning targets. Why are we here? This is why we're here. And by the way, as we discussed, these are on chain, okay? So then we can start learning. So here's lesson 1. I don't know if anybody's done it yet, but I'm about to check. But if you have a web browser open and you navigated to andamio.io, see if you can find this page and see if you could figure out how to mint your learner token. Okay. We review steps 1 and 2. Here's the step right here. This is a very early alpha version of the Andamio PBL learner dashboard. I think a lot more UI magic could certainly be applied here. But if you have a wallet connected and you're on pre-prod, this button right here will work. It doesn't work if I'm not connected. But once I am, whoops, I'm already connected, so I got an error clicking that. Let me try that again. That's actually a good one to know about. Let's see if that happens again. Okay, I got to fix that. Why is that one happening? This is great. Uncaught get change address. Oh yeah, I've seen that one before. Okay. That might happen to a lot of people. Is anybody trying this and getting the same error? Oh, I know why that's happening. What we're trying to do right here is track. We're trying to track ownership of a learner token, even if it might not be in a wallet. And there's some convoluted queries. Anybody who's in Plutus PBL, we could look at those queries together. But you kind of have to go on a little transaction history search to find out if there is a wallet associated with the token. And that's why we're getting that error right now. Was anybody able to successfully mint yet? Z-Band just showed up.
Yeah, for me, it's error.
That's me.
I know. I didn't want to call you out. How far back does that handle go? Are we talking 90s?
90s. That was my EverQuest character name. So
Nice.
goes way back to that game.
I'm embarrassed by my 90s handles. I really don't want any of those to see the light of day. Okay, so we got a bug to fix on the learner dashboard. But it looks like minting is working.
Yes,
And
it's
here,
working. I mean my token. I
Good.
meant it.
Okay, does that work? Yeah, and if I switch wallets right here just to demonstrate, I'll use a different one.
Seems the problem is the hook is disconnecting the wallet when you change the pages, but that's
That could be. Okay, and then collateral, right? We have to teach this in the course. So collateral, especially when you're using a wallet for the first time, you might remember this from your first interactions with dApps on mainnet. A wallet does need to have collateral set. And so here's how to do that. And this will be added to the course. Right here, I click on my robot to see my settings. I can click to see if I have collateral here, or can I also see it? No, it's just collateral. Okay. Yeah, just collateral in NAMI. Right. And so I can see that I have collateral. If you don't, you'll be prompted to basically send a transaction to yourself. When you first make a wallet and then you go to the pre-prod faucet, you only have one UTXO in your wallet, and that can't be used as collateral, at least with this wallet right here. And so if I remove that, it might not work. What else are folks noticing? Oh, Eternal keeps losing them. That happened to me once. Does anybody know why? Yeah, I opened up a web browser the other day where I thought I had Eternal all set up and there was just nothing in it.
For me, it's almost every time, but there's like a cache. Your wallets are stored in cache somewhere, and at least for me, Brave likes to clean that out when I run out of disk space, which happens too often. So it just clears out my browser cache, which is where the wallets are.
Have you updated Brave in the last time? Because I had that problem, but since some weeks I don't have that problem anymore. After an update from Brave.
It says it's current, but I'll check again.
I'll try that too. I was getting disconnected on every page as well, but I also have Eternal set up to activate on click so it doesn't interfere with Miro. So there could be some interaction there that's causing that too.
Another thing to check in Eternal is on the whole wallet settings rather than individual wallet settings. if you know what I mean, bottom left cog rather than top right, there's a section for persistent data. And if you set some storage allowance, then it will persist your wallets as long as it possibly can. So until you actually go ahead and clear out your cache or storage, then it will persist. So that's something to check.
So really, this is just the Eternal team continuing to be overachievers and giving us all the settings that we could possibly want. We just have to find them.
There's an additional section to your Swiss Army knife that you hadn't found yet.
Yeah, the persistence actually a good suggestion. Thank you, Jonathan, because I did that and I did resolve it at one point. Then my Brave crashed, so the entire profile got blown away and it lost that setting. So I haven't gone back and reset that. You're right, though. That did resolve the problem for me in the past.
Yeah.
Tavo, error the first time. Did you try again? I'm curious.
But I noticed that when you go to the next option, contributor platform, the wallet maintains its connection. And you can mint the token without
There's been a
go again and connect the wallet. So it works.
If anybody finds a route, if you ever click on a link and your wallet does disconnect, let the team know about that, because we've been eliminating those one by one. It should be relatively persistent now, but yeah, I'd love to know where it's broken. Okay. And yeah, right, like Tavo got it on the second try. This is, as long as people might have to try like twice and close their browser and fifth time go again, then we're not production ready yet, right? This is not going to onboard people while we're still dealing with problems like that. But at least we're making a pretty good list of what needs to be true in order to get somebody to the point of using a platform like this, if they're not, maybe crypto or Cardano natives like a lot of us are. So our work is still cut out for us on that. That's why I'm just so interested every time people try this. All right, cool. Thanks for getting it to work. Take a look. All right. We got a whole bunch of learners ready. So now you got a learner token. And that means you have not access to the course, but the ability to make commitments. This content is not gated. And that's a conscious decision. Okay, we could make it so that you need a token to view this content. And a lot of people are trying to do the same thing, right? A paid version of Substack, for example, where if you own a token, you can log in with your wallet and view some content. There's absolutely a use case for that, and there's probably a market for it. But that's not what Andamio provides, okay? In this case, the content itself is free. Anybody can show up and start learning. But what you need a token for is the ability to create that on-chain record that you've learned some things, okay? And some people might compare this to auditing a course versus paying for a certificate, all right? And as we start to get deeper into how the contributor platform works, we'll go a little bit deeper into this in December or January for this session, okay? You'll start to see that what a learner token enables people to do is when they've built up enough of a credential, they can create a contributor token that gives them an even greater level of access rights. Thank you, Nick, for the bug note. We will put it on the list. Thank you. Good things. That's a good idea too. Click here. Yeah, sometimes just writing click here is not enough to see it. I like it. Thanks. Okay, so now that you have a token, there's the next lesson is the first lesson about assignments. And this one just directs you to the assignment. Right now that you have a learner token, you commit. Yeah, I basically just said these words. Assignments are typically listed at the end of each module. You can see them here. Okay. And if you visit the assignment and you have a learner token, let's see, over here in this wallet, I do. You should see that you have the ability to commit to the assignment. Got to clean up. Here's that module hash. I actually didn't mean to leave this right here, but this was just a check. This is the hash that is validating that the module on chain with this assignment matches the learning targets like we were talking about earlier. Okay. But you should now be able to make a commitment to this assignment. See if you can get that to work. Clicking on the Mint Learner token, pop-up showed behind some of the components. That's not acceptable. Curtis, thank you. Brilliant. Needed that one. And table looking for the assignment page, removed the wallet connection. Yeah, I was wondering about that. So check it out. If I use the sidebar to navigate, I'm fine. But if I click on this link right here to navigate to the assignment, it breaks. So we're not able, this is a MarkDoc thing. So we're Nelson, we got to figure out how to use next link inside of MarkDoc documentation. And that's a perfect example of it. As long as I stay here, I'm using the link feature. But if I use a link from inside the markdown file, it breaks. Good. I hope that one's solvable. It must be. And then, oh yeah, okay. From that page, we're a little bit behind, and we were not able, Curtis, to get that page, the course management page, fully up to date in the UI. So for now, the Mint token button should work great from your learner profile. But yeah, you've got some ugly stacked modals on the course management route. Perfect. Also noted. This is awesome. Thank you, guys. If people were successful, we've got another link here. And we've got a couple of messages. So here you go. Nice job submitting your first on-chain evidence. This is a much bigger topic that we're not going to cover in depth today, but one of the questions that we have is, how can we best use the assignment info? So much more to come on that. These buttons should only be appearing if you are actually the learner, and we haven't fixed that yet. Okay, but people are making their first commitments. I like it. Thanks. And that brings us to the third lesson, where now you're waiting. You're waiting for that human oracle layer or that middleman to work, okay? Where you'll have a course facilitator who heads over to that list of assignments we were just looking at. That needs to look a little bit better too. Not happy with how this looks yet. Oh, no, that looks okay. But this can be made a bit better. But the idea is anybody holding a facilitator token will now be able to either accept or deny an assignment. How's that feel? What do you think?
And it's tried to override Norris assignment and it says error signing submitting.
You're darn right. Yeah, you can't mess up somebody else's assignment. I love it. But that's the beauty, right? That's the on-chain bit. And that's what's so exciting about these contracts that are running under the hood is, so just to go a little bit into what Plutus is doing here, right? I think a lot of us have a pretty good mental model that Plutus allows you to set rules for how tokens can be sent back and forth. But it's not just that. It also allows us to set similar rules for how on-chain datum is updated. And that part's really exciting, okay? We have the ability to say, hey, only the holder of this specific learner token can change the information associated with that learner token. Probably a pretty important validation rule to have, right? And there are similar rules along the way. For example, only the course creator can add a module to the blockchain, right? And then only the decider, the facilitator who is approving the assignment can only approve that assignment if the necessary datum is found, okay? You know what I forgot to do before this session today? I might need a minute here. I'd love to demonstrate an approval transaction, but I don't think I put the right token in my wallet. Oh, Harsha, this is a good one. Are you using Eternal?
I am, yes.
Yeah, okay. So we still have not covered the problem of multi-address wallets. And so in Eternal, the default behavior is that you have that HD wallet with multi-address derivations. And what our system is noticing is that, okay, the zero index address in your wallet, which is often called the change address, is not the same as the non-zero index address that you use to mint the token. Tavo, see you soon. Okay, and that's a rich problem, but we can play around with. Okay, so people using Eternal are seeing the same thing. Okay, there is a fix for that, and by tomorrow, I'll make sure to have that fix published for you guys. But it's absolutely not something we're going to be asking a mainstream audience to do. So in order for this to become a mainstream application, we've got some good work ahead of us, making sure that that problem doesn't happen. Okay. Does that make sense, this concept of HD wallets? And yeah, that's a good thing for us to have on the development roadmap. I actually don't know if I sent an Andamio decider to one of these wallets. I have the creator. I don't think I sent the. This will take just another moment, but if you have other questions or ideas, keep them coming. I really appreciate taking this time, everybody. Getting decider 2 hooked up over here. It's gonna be there. All right, so in just a moment, this wallet should be able to make some decisions, and we'll see how that part works. All right, so we discovered some great bugs. Got our work cut out for us with Eternal. But the other stuff here, those are all quick and urgent fixes. Love it. All right, let's see if this wallet got its decider token yet. Yep. So I can navigate back to here where now we've got this list of assignments, and this is, let's see. There we go. Because I have the correct access token, right, this facilitation token, I should be able to accept these assignments. And the first thing you'll see, hopefully, is how inefficient this is, right? What I really want to be able to do is click check marks and just approve everybody at once. We haven't built that yet. Okay, so it's one at a time. So I'm not going to do all of these right now. But also this speaks to kind of the time intensiveness of being a course facilitator. Any teacher will tell you that the hardest part of the job is grading all those papers, right? There's no way to speed that part up. But let's take a look. Let's confirm John's. See if that works. Oh, and I'm not sharing. Let me share just so we can look at this transaction too. Right. I don't know if everybody was looking at all the details of your transactions as you were building them, but it's a really nice thing. It's even better in Eternal. But even here in NAMI, if I click those details, I can see a couple things that are happening. I can see that being sent to this non-contract address is the Fluid 7 asset. Okay, so it's being unlocked. And essentially what this means is that the learner can only commit to one assignment at a time, right? And they have to get the token back and then they can keep going. And then to the contract, there's actually a token with the same name, all right? But these are actually not exactly the same tokens. This is a simple implementation of the pattern that's suggested in SIP 68, which talks about having one token held in a person's wallet and another token held at some other address with some relevant datum. So Fluid 7 is going to get the token back, and the contract address is going to get the related token back with some updated datum. Let's see if it works. Okay. And so now what that means is we'll be able to see this learner token disappear from the list of commitments. And then we're also going to be able to see evidence of this in the list of learners. But let's see. Let's say that, you know, Paban, he was just trying to be nice, and we can tell. We know that this UI is still ugly, so we're actually going to deny that assignment. Let's do it, okay?
No, we don't need it. Don't be hard.
Let's see. First of all, and this is why it's going to be so much more efficient to build a system where we can distribute several of these at once. There's still going to be a limit to how many we can distribute because, oh, he got it back. Nice. Congratulations, learner. There's even when we do build a multi-select, because of the limit to a transaction size, there's going to be a relatively small limit to how many approvals we can make at once. Okay. But I know that that last transaction worked, so we can see that's gone. When did Claudio show up? Wow. It's everywhere. All right, but let's, like promised, let's just deny Paban. What happens? So in this case, look at these details. No token is being sent back. Say it again.
Are you showing the right screen? I think we're just seeing the static Andamio window.
Oh no.
Assignment 101. Confirm your assignment transaction.
I can see it here. Let me try one more time.
Okay.
How about? Nope. Now it just popped up. How's that look? Anything?
No, same still. Oh, is it just me? Maybe it's just me. Curtis says he sees it.
Yeah, I can see it on the double screen. But in the details here, the key thing here is that in this case, the learner is not getting the token back. And the only thing that's happening is that the contract is just getting this token here. But one more thing is happening. Let's take a look. So obviously, as usual, it takes just a moment for this transaction to be confirmed. But after it is, let's see. Yeah, we'll wait for that transaction. Basically, what the deny assignment transaction does is it removes the assignment info submitted by the student. Basically, what the deny assignment transaction does is it removes the assignment info submitted by the student. Basically, what the deny assignment transaction does is it. Hey, Claudio. Welcome. All good. Oh, he's on YouTube. I was like, that's an epic delay there. That makes sense, though. All right, so that transaction just went through. If I refresh this page now, you can see that Paban has no student info. Okay, and would have to update the assignment commitment with. Well, I don't have the right wallet connected, so I can't do his, right? But he would have to resubmit some info and try again to get credit for this assignment. Obviously, now there's no reason to deny somebody on this assignment, right? But in future, right, if you're asking people to do more difficult things, especially, this is where I think multi-sig or multi-decision makers become really important. If a community decides, hey, there's not enough evidence there yet, right? They can say, no, not yet. And we will support you to improve your work so that you can get approved next time. Okay, so that's built in here. So obviously some UI still to be updated here. This is a work in progress, and our team is committed on the sprint we're currently on right now to at least get all of the course management UI, not perfect, but acceptable, good enough to play with. And so we'll be rolling that out in the coming days. And we're also excited to be putting this in the hands of the first few teams who are building PBL content. Tavo was here. He's been leading a team to build some governance guild PBL content. We are working with the Mesh team to build a course that's specific to Mesh. We've covered a little bit of Mesh in Plutus PBL, but now we get a course really dedicated to that tool, which is going to allow us to do some deeper things. And then the Andamio team was also funded to do a proof of concept with Deep Funding Academy for Singularity Net. And so Roberto's leading the way and working with Felix to build a course there. So the first few courses are just starting to go online now, along with this one, where you can see an early outline and a draft of learning targets, but all of these learning targets in modules 102 and beyond need to be vetted by our team before we can publish them on chain. And then the content needs to be fleshed out. So you'll see here, if you go to module 102, for example, it's just placeholders and an old YouTube video just because we were testing video embeds. So very much a work in progress. We're definitely in the early alpha, but really excited to be, at least to this point, of a set of working transactions built on a JavaScript library and with a little bit of bells and whistles starting to work. Any questions or other thoughts or team, what did I miss? Anything that we should be emphasizing here?
I think you covered it all. This was some awesome functional and UI UX testing we just did. Thanks to everybody.
So grateful for this space, and thanks everybody for showing up. It's very, very cool to be able to get this feedback in real time from people we trust. So thanks. And if you are thinking about any sorts of courses that might be built, that's the real goal of Andamio PBL. Okay, we have to teach people the initial bit, how to use it with the first module. But by module 201, we start looking at how to teach, creating content, building your own instance, and connecting to the network. This is the outline of what will be covered in this course. You can also see the learning targets. But if this course is successful, anybody here will be able to deploy their own course in Andamio and start teaching all sorts of exciting things. So if you need a place to start thinking about what your goals are and start trying to write those down as learning targets. We're going to publish a module that gives you some pointers on how to write great learning targets. But I'm sure a lot of people here are already having some ideas. Cool. Well, so at the beginning of this session, I said that maybe we need some help with language. So back to the landing page now. If you know Gimbalabs, you know that we're not always focused on hype, and probably missed some opportunities by not always trying to tell the story. We're just, my goal personally, I like being here, learning with people, and want to keep creating spaces to do that. But we also recognize that for this project, we're trying to build a sustainable business, and we want to tell a great story. So what would you say if you had to design the landing page? Are there ideas you would tweak? Are there things you would lean into a little bit more? Anybody have thoughts who's had a chance to kind of read over the landing page? Or do any of these concepts raise questions for anybody? Is there a claim we're making that you're like, yeah, how are you going to do that?
I was just thinking the first thing I always look for when I land on a piece of software as a service or other such product is the pricing tab. So it's notable that there isn't one here.
Not yet, coming soon.
Whether that needs adding.
Yeah. Good point. Oh, it's going to be fun to add that page here. There's been a lot of conversations there. And it's multifaceted, because one of the biggest things our team is thinking that people are going to be willing to pay for is that kind of non-scalable sort of support, writing course content, that kind of thing, right? Deploying the software as a service, we expect that there will be a certain market for that. How big is it going to be in the short term? Not big enough to sustain us right away, right? So that's a piece. And I'm really curious about, if an organization is building a course, would they pay by the learner, right? So for this intro package, you get this many learner tokens, this many facilitators, and this many course creator tokens, for example.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea of certainly a starter pack where you have your set number of students you can cope with, and then that gives you a fixed cost for whatever learning module you're building. And if you are recharging that onto your students or education body, whoever it is, then you have that to go with. But then, yeah, and a scale up sort of ladder would be good to know. If I want to, I want to onboard another 50 students, I'm starting a new course. I need a price on that.
Yeah. Awesome. The good news is, if your course is successful and you need more learners, you've already been successful. So when you do re-up, you know what you're getting into.
Exactly. You get that loyalty effect, and this educator has made this place their home, and they want to keep building and teaching from here, and see it become sustainable by contributing, by paying, and receiving.
Thanks, John.
In fact, my mind does keep jumping to loyalty tokens, and whether there is a Gimbal tokens opportunity to be rewarding people for using the platform by giving them gimbals some way, shape, or form. The more you use it, the more ownership you have of the Gimbal token as a whole, and that may grow into its own economy ecosystem. I like that idea.
Yeah. One of the things we saw today is just the on-ramp, right? The idea is now you have a learner token. We actually didn't look at the datum on chain. We'll save that. But you now have this policy ID for a learner token, and to that policy ID, you're adding these modules that you've completed. And now we can write a minting validator that says, if you have the learner token and you've completed such and such modules, you can mint this contributor token. And that's the contributor token that can give you access to the kinds of rewards that you're talking about. How does that feel? Like if it's like learning, yeah, open mint, anybody can jump in, but you have to be vetted as a learner to get to the point of the contributor who can earn.
Yeah, really good. Life is a game. You're always wanting to upgrade your character in a game environment. Yeah. And if you're doing the same with learner tokens here, you can become a contributor, and you can start to be rewarded for that. Then that's all incentives that you need. And it's the achievement levels are often worth more than any kind of monetary return you'll get down the road. It's the fact that you're contributing, that you're feeling you're making progress, that you're upping your stats. Yeah. That's the thrill you get from gaming.
Oh man, we need a dope RPG skin on this thing for sure.
Yeah.
Curtis, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm very excited to get started on implementing Andamio for one of the projects that we're working on, which is purpose and alignment and true value of an organization. But it gets me thinking about how to integrate the community into that and identify potential collaborations. So you mentioned the learner token and the contributor token, and I know you have your own metadata structure. If we wanted to identify certain properties like what your interests are or passions or skill sets, and trying to use and leverage that information to identify those collaborations. So a project starts within this Andamio course, and you want to find people who share that interest to work together on a project. Can that be done with the existing structure, or do we need to rebuild that metadata format? I guess I'm
awesome. So you guys are starting to work on a metadata schema for holding some of that essential data.
Well, I'm actually curious because you've got a metadata structure for learners and contributors. Can we just append to that certain attributes and then make a queryable?
Bingo. That's the beauty of it, right? Like actually most of the work that we've done is looking at the datum, because we're thinking about what's the minimum we need in the UTXO itself in order for these transactions to validate when they should, right? But adding the layer of metadata to any transaction, it's trivial, right? So we can do that. Yeah, we can just add, we can go in and we can say, okay, for every one of these learner commitment transactions, we're going to throw this metadata on it. For every learner token that's minted, we want to throw this extra metadata on it. That's 100% doable. That's really exciting. That's really neat to think about the flexibility we have there. Yeah. And then sharing best practices, right? So like somebody might say, okay, well, we added this metadata to these tokens or these transactions, and it gave us this additional value, right? Both from our community's ability to see into the system and gain insights from it, right? But yeah, also just into the public visibility, right? And you could then propose that metadata structure to anybody else using the system and say, hey, do you guys want to use this too? If we do, we'll be interoperable in this way because we'll be able to compare against the same schema. Curtis, let me know what ideas you start to have about how to structure that, or if you want to co-plan like a session together to get people thinking about options there. That would be a really fun one to get into.
Yeah, I know I'd love to. This one is a bit, I feel like, unique, and it's not direct with the use case that you have, because I do see Andamio being very powerful to the individual and the learners and the educators and so on and so forth. Where we're trying to integrate it is at the organizational level. So one of the courses that we're building out is finding an organization's purpose, aligning with their mission, what their true value and capacities are, and so on and so forth, so that they discover their organization and they discover the roadmap. But in that, they're going to discover what they're about and how they categorize themselves and where they're directed, where their direction is. If that can be labeled or organized, then they can find common, right, other organizations that are working towards saving wildlife or reforestation, whatever. They can identify and align with other organizations that are doing that. And that's what I'm trying to sort of capture, is the metadata of the organization, and then creating collaborations with the individuals, because there's also an individual component with skills and so on and so forth. So it's really just trying to align, hey, we do this is our passion and our purpose, and we have open projects. Let's see if we can find the individuals that match through this Andamio platform, potentially.
Love it. Love it. When you feel ready, would you be willing to do a playground presentation about the current status of your thinking and bring some open questions? I think there's some really good stuff there. And that's, yeah, when we think about the business case for this platform, it's 100% organization facing, right? We don't think we're going to we don't want to make a living just selling subscription fees to learners. Right? We really want to demonstrate the value proposition to organizations and say, look, when you teach this way, you get this quality of contributors. Here's the track record of what gets done. And what you're talking about is a layer of discoverability on top of that. It's beautiful, right? Not only can we show organizations that they can use education to onboard the contributors they need, but also you can have this network where there's discoverability in both directions.
Yeah, I love that. That's the intent, and I'm not sure how to make that happen, but this is great ideas. Thank you.
Let's do it. That's great. Well, we're at time. Once again, really appreciate the chance, everybody, to just try a couple things here. The chat here is priceless. Thanks for being this kind of community, and let's I don't want to close without saying, look at the value we just created together, right? And this is something that all of us could do anytime for any other project, right? Bring somebody in who's got an early alpha release, test it with them, talk it through with them. If anybody is interested in trying to figure out how to maybe more substantiate that as a business opportunity in the years to come, I think we've built the seedling of something really relevant here. Just looking forward to continue, obviously, to do this for each other, but maybe to start looking outward as well. Right, y'all. Happy Tuesday. See ya at soon. S3, Plutus Live Coding, something.
All of the above. Thanks, James.
Catalyst launch. See you, everybody.